Hi, I'm Bryce Crittenden.
Hi, I'm Caroline Land, and welcome back to EPL's Overdue Finds.
Caroline, it's our Christmas episode today. It's one of my favorites for the year. Merry Christmas to you, by the way.
Same to you, Bryce. I had a question I was wondering about. Growing up in your family, were you a presents on Christmas Eve family or a presents on Christmas Day family?
We were a strictly presents on Christmas Day family.
Hmm.
And I kind of liked it that way. Like, I would hear about friends who would open up like half their gifts or whatever on Christmas Eve. And I was kind of like, but then you don't have as many gifts to open up on Christmas Day. So I'm all for saving it for Christmas Day. How about you?
Same. We definitely opened the majority of ours on Christmas Day. We did kind of open the like one or two leading up to Christmas with a few on Christmas Eve. But I always liked waiting until the actual Christmas Day.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great question because it's always interesting to hear what people's kind of Christmas traditions are and everything. And speaking of Christmas traditions, one of the big Christmas traditions out there, and we talked about this actually in our last bonus episode with playwright David Van Bell, is a lot of families getting together to watch A Christmas Carol. And there's so many different versions of A Christmas Carol out there, and we've talked about A Christmas Carol a lot on the show before, but this is gonna kind of be the first time where we've talked about this one in particular. That anytime the topic's been brought up, it always seems to be a favorite, and it's definitely a favorite among staff, and that's A Muppet Christmas Carol. You're so excited for this one, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I mean, I love talking about Muppets. I love Christmas. I'm really excited to have a fun conversation today.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think on our last episode, we did a call out for staff to join us on this episode and many others. And the amount of requests that we got from staff to come on this episode, like we would have had like a huge panel. It was, I think, in the double digits.
Was in the double digits. It's the most we've ever had for any episode in Overdue Finds history, the most interest. Normally, I don't want to peek too far behind the curtain here for our listeners, but sometimes we get a bit of interest, one or two people saying they'd like to come on. We've had episodes where there was no interest and it was just you and I on our own, but this one really struck a chord with people.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different than our Marilyn Monroe episode where it was just me and you. But yeah, so we've got two amazing guests today. First, this is the second episode in a row, by the way. We've had people from marketing on the show. Doesn't happen very often, of course, just me. But I want to welcome to the show. She's previously been on two of our bonus March Madness recap episodes in 2019 and 2020, where she was breaking down our social media voting trends. She is our communications specialist here at EPL, Marina Afonso. Marina, how's it going today?
So good! Representing marketing. Well, how exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just a couple people away from having had the entire marketing department on the show. Maybe that could be our New Year's resolution.
Maybe, yeah, that bingo card is definitely filling up a lot
Yeah.
from marketing peeps. So, yeah, welcome to the show. And joining us for actually the second time, I interviewed them previously on our very first bonus episode back in 2018 when they were at the Edmonton Comic and Entertainment Expo. Courtney Loberg, library assistant at Millwoods. How's it going today? And also, by the way, I should say, amazing artist.
Thanks so much, Bryce. I'm so excited to be here and to talk about Muppets with you guys. I was one of the many staff people that as soon as I saw Muppets Christmas Carol on the Overdue Finds, just like, pick me, like I need to be a part of that. So super excited to chat with you guys.
Do you remember that interview we did like 3-4 years ago?
Absolutely. That was my first Edmonton Expo also, and I had just gotten the artist in residence position at Happy Harbor too, so
Mhm.
that was a pretty cool fall for me. I also think I just started EPL. Like there was, yeah, lots of firsts for me there.
Nice.
It was, yeah, a really good time for sure.
Well, we're so excited to have you both on the show with us today. This is going to be such a fun discussion about A Muppet Christmas Carol. But before we start chatting about that movie, let's get into our recent Overdue Finds picks. Marina, I see you a lot of times at lunch, at your desk, reading a book. Do you have a book that you're recommending today?
Yes, how did you know? And it's actually one that every time I'm in the hold section, I see the cover because it's so colorful. So I just finished reading Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I hope I'm saying her name right. And I loved it. It was probably one of my favorite books I've read in a really long time. It's about a female scientist in the 1960s, and she ends up becoming the star of a TV show. And yeah, I've just honestly loved it. I think the protagonist is just so likable. She pushes through all these gender barriers that are against her in like the late 50s and early 60s. It's really funny and smart. And there's a dog who's one of like the main characters. So automatically I was in it and I loved it.
Nice. Is that a fairly recent book then?
Yeah, I think it just came out this year.
Cool.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Nice. That sounds really good. Courtney, how about you? What have you been enjoying lately?
I just finished Otessa Moshfegh's newest novel. It's called Lapvona, and I've been a fan of her work for a long time. So she does these always really intimate character studies, and she also often is kind of exploring the everyday horrors of like living under capitalism or other hegemonic systems. And this newest one is set in the medieval times, and that's my favorite like historical period. So I was like right away, I was like, I have to read this one. It's about like a kind of this cruel like sheep herder guy and his son and the town lord, and it follows each of them and sort of the personal religions that they cultivate to make sense of their lives. But I guess it also came out this year, and I guess she wrote it over the pandemic. So it's pretty big departure. Like often her stuff is set closer to like contemporary times. So yeah, anyway, it was fantastic. Definitely recommend that one.
Nice. So anything medieval, you're all in on
I'm
that
in,
one?
yeah, absolutely. Like medieval. There's just I'm really interested in it culturally. There's so many the belief system, I guess, really changed kind of right after that, with the Enlightenment and everything. And yeah, there's just a lot of weird ways of looking at the world that I feel like are pretty different from, yeah, I don't know, how we see things now.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Lots of crude humor too, which is always fun.
Oh, you got me hooked then. That's all you need to say. Crude humor, and I'm totally in. Caroline, how about you? Do you have a pick of your own this week?
I do, and it's a book, so we're 3 for 3 so far on books. Mine is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Marina, it looks like you may have read this one.
I'm hold number like 129 on this book, but I'm dying to read it because I heard it's so good.
My hold just came in, so I cleared my reading, my to-do list basically. And so Emily Henry, she wrote, you might remember, Bryce, Beach Read, the one where the romance novelist and the literary fiction novelist switch and try to write each other's genres and then fall in love. Spoiler. In Book Lovers, we have Nora, the protagonist, and she is characterized as this cutthroat literary agent who will go to bat for her clients, create all these kinds of deals. One of New York City's elite literary agents. She also is the person that gets broken up with on someone else's small town romance journey. So when you think of all these, like right now, we're right in peak TV Christmas movie season where somebody goes back to a small town, they reconnect with maybe someone they knew in high school, or maybe the person who runs the local fishing tackle shop, and through the process of saving the town gazebo or creating some kind of Christmas celebration, the protagonist realizes that he actually doesn't love his big city girlfriend. He's in love with the um, uh, bookseller slash uh, snow sculpturess who in this small town. So she's that person that gets broken up with in the big city. This gets flipped. Her sister, who loves romances as much as she does, says, "Come on, we're going on vacation." They head off to Sunshine Falls, the setting of one of her author's hottest novels, and she just finds herself in increasingly um, uh, ludicrous coincidences with a man that she happens to know from the city. And it would be all kinds of wonderful meet cute situations, except they've already met and it's not cute at all. Or is it? Maybe it is. Maybe there's just a little bit of small town magic left for a big city girl. So that's Book Lovers by Emily Henry.
If the countless Hallmark Christmas movies have taught me that I've watched have taught me anything, is that there's always a little bit of small town charm.
Yeah.
That kind of wins over hearts in the end.
Yeah, and this definitely, I mean, the title alone, Book Lovers, you can tell it's going to play with these tropes. So fans of romance, of these types of movies or books that I've mentioned, it evokes them. I mean, the main character Nora, she's named after Nora Ephron, and that's like in the story. Like the character's mother named her after Nora Ephron. So there are these ties to movie romance, and what's realistic about it and what is not, and what, yeah, just expectations and different elements of it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, based on some of your recent or other past Overdue Finds picks, it's that definitely seems like the type of book that you enjoy reading. So it's awesome that you're able to find this new one and get in there on the holds list anyway. So
my hold came in, Marina. Yours will as well. Yeah.
Yes.
I know. I'm impatient, but I have so many other books anyway. And I'm that person who has like 5 books at a time that comes in. Yeah.
That is me
it's
also.
Okay. Yeah.
I always love past Caroline's optimism about how much reading future Caroline is going to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I am and this is going to sound terrible coming from a library podcast. I do borrow obviously a lot of books from us, but sometimes if I'm a little slow reading and I know it's got to be returned and it's a newer book, I will buy it. And I've got this huge long list of books. I've got a bookshelf filled up here at home of stuff that I've told myself I will read eventually, but it's been years upon years of these books getting pretty dusty now.
Bryce, I actually do that too, because if like I'm really excited to read it, but there's so many people waiting, I get really anxious about it. And even if I have the 3 weeks still, I just find it hard to relax. So it's better if I just buy it if it's like a super popular one, and then I can actually just chill and like read the book.
For sure. Caroline, I think that should be a future episode of the podcast where we just talk about the books that we've purchased and we have not read yet.
Yes. Yeah.
That are years old now. So you could probably easily borrow them from us for free at the library. So, yeah.
Bryce, what about you? What have you been enjoying, if not one of those long sitting books?
It has unfortunately not been one of those books. So unfortunately today for the books picks, we're going to go 3 for 4. But I have, we're talking Christmas movies. This is our Christmas episode. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to recommend a holiday movie that came out last year. It went directly to HBO Max, and I noticed that we now have it in our collection, so it's perfect time to borrow it. And anybody who's listened to Overdue Finds before knows that I'm a huge fan of all things 80s. And so last year, as I mentioned, HBO released a Christmas movie called 8-Bit Christmas, which is my Overdue Finds pick this week. Basically, this is a movie where if I was asked to write a movie about being a kid at Christmas, this is the movie I definitely would have came up with. So the movie takes place, as I mentioned, during the mid-'80s and is about a young boy played by actor Winslow Fegley, who's on a quest to get the coolest gaming system around. Yes, the original Nintendo Entertainment System. Of course, his parents don't want to get him one because, as they say, video games are bad for kids. So we definitely have a lot of similarities here between this and A Christmas Story, where, of course, in that movie, Ralphie wanted to get the Red Ryder BB gun, but in this one, it's a Nintendo Entertainment System. Neil Patrick Harris is in it, and he actually plays the older version of the boy in the movie. And of course, he's telling his own daughter this story of the Christmas where he tried to get this Nintendo Entertainment System. So this is a great nostalgic Christmas movie. It's definitely going to resonate with those parents or adults kind of in their probably I would say mid 30s and up anyway, who kind of lived through that era. But really, this is a movie that anybody will have a blast with. So I really love this movie.
I'm glad you talked about that because I have seen it out there, but I wasn't quite sure what the deal was with this Christmas Story. So, yeah.
All right. So it seems like recently, anyway, I was going to say that I remember when A Muppet Christmas Carol came out, but it seems like really over the last decade or so, there's been this like resurgence of it maybe, or maybe I just missed it when it first came out, but it seems like it's definitely one of the most popular and talked about Christmas movies now, right?
Yeah, I would say so. In fact, I have some fun facts that speak exactly to your point there, Bryce. So I'm going to just jump in here. So I'm going to start
Mm-hmm.
back at the beginning. A Christmas Carol is a novella written by Charles Dickens, first published in London in 1843. Its full title is A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas. The story, for anyone who is just discovering A Christmas Carol through our podcast today, is of Ebenezer Scrooge, an elderly miser who rejects his nephew and treats his employee, Bob Cratchit, harshly. On Christmas Eve, he's visited by the ghost of his former business partner, Jacob Marley, who tells him that he will be visited that night by 3 more spirits, ghosts of Christmas past, present, and Christmas yet to come. The Muppets are an ensemble cast of puppet characters created by Jim Henson in the 1950s. They originally starred on TV shows like Sam and Friends and The Muppet Show, later making feature movies The Muppet Movie, The Great Muppet Caper, and The Muppets Take Manhattan. Jim Henson died in 1990. He had performed such Muppets as Kermit the Frog, Rolf the Dog, and Waldorf. Richard Hunt, another Muppeteer, performed Scooter, Statler, Beaker, and Janice, had died in January 1992, and A Muppet Christmas Carol is dedicated to the 2 of them. The Muppet Christmas Carol was produced by Disney and released at Christmas 1992, so celebrating 30 years this year. Michael Caine was cast as Scrooge. In an interview with The Guardian, Brian Henson, director of the movie and son of Jim, said that Michael Caine told him, "I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I will never do anything Muppety. I am going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me. So I'm looking forward to talking more about Michael Caine in a bit. The film is a musical with original songs written by Paul Williams, who had been nominated for an Oscar for Rainbow Connection from 1979's The Muppet Movie. The movie was released on December 11th, 1992. It finished in sixth place during its opening weekend, behind A Few Good Men, Home Alone 2, which was our runner up for what Christmas movie we were going to talk about, The Bodyguard, Aladdin, and The Distinguished Gentleman, a political comedy starring Eddie Murphy. Muppet Christmas Carol ended up grossing around $27 million in North America, so not a huge box office hit. Critic Gene Siskel gave the movie a thumbs down, and Roger Ebert said it had too many songs. Dave Kerr from the Chicago Tribune called it a talky, plodding film that seems likely to bore children and adults in equal measure. It was not well reviewed critically at the time. And as Bryce mentioned, it's really only been, I would say, the latter part of this 30-year span that it's been kind of reassessed for what it is as a movie. I think people were looking for something different from it when it was first released. So that's a little bit of background on A Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I find with the Muppets, there's almost like this wave of popularity with it, like really popular in like the late 70s, 80s, and then it just kind of like we had Muppet Babies in the mid 80s, and then it just kind of like dipped off, and kind of really recently within the last decade with the Jason Segel movie, we've seen this big resurgence of them. So yeah, I find that so funny. I had no idea it opened in sixth place anyway, so that's crazy. But Courtney, like, what's your history with Muppet Christmas Carol? Do you remember when you first watched it?
I was trying to remember that, but I was born in 1990, and my family has watched it every year at Christmas that I can remember, so I don't remember like how old I actually was. It's just like a movie that we always watched every year at Christmas, and I still do to this day. Um, and I have absolutely no idea. This is a complete shot in the dark, but I can't help but wonder if there's other people like me who grew up watching this movie and maybe now have kids and stuff. Like, they're in their 30s now. I don't know, but like it's interesting that you say it's so popular now because I haven't been very aware of that just because to me it's been such an institution of like Christmas. So, yeah.
Well, that makes total sense. Just like you said, it's just always been there for you. Like you were only 2 when it first came out, but yeah, if you grew up watching it, then it's just always been part of your life. Marina, how about you?
Yeah, the same. So I was also 2 when the movie came out, and I've been watching it with my family ever since. Every single year. I have no idea. I cannot remember like when I started watching it. And I do have an almost 2-year-old, and so I have tried to make her watch it. But she isn't super into it. Right now, she really likes that song Mana Mana or whatever with the Muppets. So I thought, same. But no, she's not into it. I think it's kind of scary. I do remember being a little bit scared when I first watched it as a kid. So maybe in a couple years.
Caroline, how about you? Is this also a movie? Like, I'm older than everybody here, but like, is this also a movie that you just kind of grew up with and it was just kind of always there for you, or not really?
No, I remember when it came out. I remember I remember when Home Alone 2 came out. I remember when Aladdin came out, so I guess I'm very aware of this in movie period. And then it was more a movie when I think of when I did watch it. It was the type of movie that in school on like a Friday, sometime leading up to Christmas, the teacher would like roll in that TV on the big rolling stand, and we would watch a movie. And this would be the type of movie it might be. So I think I would have watched it a couple times probably then, and then it just kind of drifted away, and I knew it was there, and I didn't really take it in. And it wasn't until a couple years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I went to a showing of it at the Metro Cinema because I love going and seeing things on the big screen. And I went, and it was enjoyable and it was fun. And I was like, this is very funny in parts. And I think I got some of the humor that I didn't get as a child, but it's only been since then that it's really been something I've incorporated into my annual holiday viewing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just watched this for the very first time this week in preparation for this episode. Before everybody else came on, it was just Marina and I on here on Squadcast, and she was just absolutely floored that I had never watched it before. But like I'm old, so I was 13 when this movie came out in 1992, and so I was in junior high, and I was too cool at that age to be going to see a Muppet movie in the theaters with my friends. Funny enough, Caroline, when you mentioned The Distinguished Gentleman was #1 at the box
Number
office,
5.
I do remember. Oh, just it was number 5. I do remember going to see that movie at the movies. So
That was the one I had to
I went to that
Google.
movie. Yeah. I remember seeing the poster and it was like, oh my God, Eddie Murphy, he's hilarious. I love Beverly Hills Cop. And that movie, by the way, is totally forgettable. But yeah. So, I mean, at that age, I was just more getting into like other, like, I remember horror movies and action movies. So it wasn't really my thing. And for whatever reason, like I had younger brothers, but it just we never rented it, I guess, as a family or whatever. But, I mean, as I've gotten older, I've kind of, and I remember as a small kid too, like I remember watching like Muppet Babies on Saturday mornings, loved seeing reruns of like the old late 70s Muppet Show. But I think kind of like the interest in Muppets altogether, it's like, I think you like it as a kid. As a teenager, you kind of fall off a little bit. And then maybe as an adult, you kind of learn to appreciate them a little bit more. And that's where kind of I was like, I knew of the movie, but I'm glad I actually finally watched it. And I was glad that we're able to talk about it because it gave me an excuse to finally sit down and watch it.
So I guess we'll start with you then, Bryce. Like, what were some of your favorite scenes or moments from your very first watching of Muppet Christmas Carol?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say I really did enjoy it. And that review from Gene Siskel was, or maybe it was Roger Ebert. I don't remember which one
Roger
gave it
Ebert
the
said there
thumbs
were
down.
too many songs. Gene Siskel gave it a thumbs down.
So regarding the songs, I've talked about this before on the show. I'm not a musical fan, like, at all, but I didn't feel like there was too many songs in it. Like, I found the ones that they did have, everything was kind of spaced out good, and the songs kind of helped transition to different scenes and everything. So that part didn't bother me at all. I thought the length of it was fine. Like, I mean, compared to a lot of other Christmas Carol stories, I thought it was good. It's definitely one of I would say the top ones anyway. I will admit my all-time favorite version of A Christmas Carol though is Mickey's Christmas Carol. But similar to everybody else on here, that was the version of A Christmas Carol that I always remember watching as a kid. Like, I remember we'd recorded it off Wide World of Disney, and like we would watch it like all year basically. So I know that little kind of cartoon off like the back of my hand anyway. But as far as favorite scenes in this movie go, this is so funny and random, but during the Ghost of Christmas Present scene, I love seeing where we get to see the Cratchits, and we get to see how Miss Piggy and Kermit now have kids and everything. And I just thought that the kind of the dialogue between them at the dinner was really funny. How, Miss Piggy, of course, is just like, and rightfully so, just basically knocking Mr. Scrooge for just being cheap and not paying enough. And typical Kermit. Yeah, typical Kermit. He's just like, oh, we have to be thankful for everything. And, so I just love that. And also too, Caroline, I chatted with you a little bit about this yesterday. The whole kids part with Miss Piggy and Kermit is very fascinating to me. How it's just there's three, I think it was 2 pigs for the daughters, and then it was 2 frogs for the boys. It was very fascinating to me how that all worked out.
And they didn't even try. They didn't even try to like give us a frog with like curly hair or anything like that.
No.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I'm grateful they didn't try to like combine frog and pig features, because that would have been upsetting, I think. But yeah, why not a girl frog?
Yeah, exactly. Mix it up a little bit. Boy pig, although we kind of had pigs in space as part of the Muppet Show, so we kind of seen that already. But yeah, they didn't want to like confuse kids, I guess, too much with it. But as an adult watching this, I'm fascinated by the biology of it anyway. And we'll get into it here in a little bit too. But of course, Michael Caine's performance is amazing in this movie. And it's really sad to hear that the movie was kind of like knocked around by critics and everything. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed it. I had fun time watching it.
Marina, what about you? What are some of your favorite scenes?
Ooh, I have so many. I think though, because you laugh really the whole movie, but the part I laughed the most at is it's at the very beginning of the movie, and the bookkeepers, or like the bookkeeping rats, and Kermit, or Bob Cratchit, I should say, are asking Scrooge for more coal in the fire or something like that. And then Scrooge is like, how would you like to be unemployed? And then they're like, he wave! This is my island in the sun. It's honestly the best. And then I also really love the Ghost of Christmas Present. I think he's my favorite. And there's a part where Scrooge says, you're a little absent-minded, spirit, and he says, no, I'm a large absent-minded spirit. It's a good one.
That's great Muppet humor.
It's so good. And what else? Sam the Eagle. Sorry, I don't want to take away everybody's favorite moments. I have so many. But Sam the Eagle, he says, it's the American way. And then Gonzo whispers to him, and he's like, I mean, it is the British way.
That stuck out for me on this rewatch. I hadn't remembered that from previous ones, but just the way he says that and then kind of like looks off stage to be like, did I get it right? Was that it? It's just very funny.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Oh, and the bookkeeping rats at the beginning when they're asking for coal, they also say things like, my assets are frozen. As an adult, you just appreciate it more. And this might be controversial, but does Beaker give Scrooge the finger?
I was going to bring that up, actually. I think he does. It's hard to tell because he only has 4 fingers.
Yeah. Or is it his index finger?
You're right. Or if he's just like pointing at him, like scoldingly.
I don't know. He seems mad. Anyway, that's a fight. I love Beaker. He's my favorite Muppet, so.
Courtney, what about you?
Yeah, I was gonna mention I love Beaker too. I have a weird relationship to the Muppets because this movie was like my introduction to them, and then also kind of the only reference I have for the Muppets. So not because like I don't dislike the Muppets or something. I've just never really sought out the other movies. And I think as a kid, one thing that transfixed me so much like about the movie was how it's so like Christmassy. It just feels such a classic Christmas story. But it is kind of scary, like you guys mentioned at points. And I think I was quite afraid of like Marley and Marley and the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. And that like drew me in also, like, you know, how you're scared, but that also makes you kind of fascinated. And so I remember my dad like trying to show us the Muppet Christmas. There's like they have another Christmas movie. It's like, oh, A Country Christmas, I think. And for me it fell flat because it wasn't scary. And so I think after Christmas Carol, I never watched any other Muppet stuff because I wanted the spooky atmosphere and like element that A Christmas Carol has. But so one of my favorite moments too is when Beaker and it's I had to look up his name, Dr.
Honeydew.
Bunsen, is that right?
Bunsen.
Bunsen Honeydew.
Okay, yeah, Bunsen Honeydew. Yeah, when they're coming in to try to get, you know, donations from Scrooge, and he does the big classic Christmas Carol speech about like the poor and stuff, and then yes, it seems like Beaker is maybe like flipping him off as he's going out the door. It's just like such a dramatic scene, and it's also like funny. I also am such a huge fan of the bookkeepers. They're adorable, and all their little like quips. And one of my favorite scenes is one of those first ones where Kermit is taking them out into the town, and it's like Christmas Eve, and he sings that song. And when I was a kid, I just really felt like that captured the anticipation and like magic of Christmas Eve. You know, like it's so close and you're so excited, and yeah. So that's one of my favorites. And then I think another big one actually is the Marley and Marley one because again, I found it really scary as a kid, but I really liked the song. Like I found the song really catchy. And yeah, and it just kind of like starts everything off and launches Scrooge into this you know, mystical sort of journey that he goes on. So I really always like that one too.
I this time through, I think for me, I had more attention that I paid to Gonzo as
Mm.
Charles Dickens, and Rizzo as Rizzo, with him, and just like the way that they use that as like a narration tool, but like they're speaking directly to the audience as well. And you know, even at towards the end when is it when the spirit of Christmas yet to come and they're like, this is too scary, we'll meet you at the finale. And like
Yeah.
it's like this meta joke that the Muppets are like so good for, but you're like watching, you're aware you're watching a production with this and these characters. It's just really good. I like what they do with the inclusion of Charles Dickens into it, as well as the interplay that Gonzo and Rizzo have. For sure, I like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one other thing too I really liked in the movie during the opening credits. I thought it was just kind of cute. Was so they have like Michael Caine, and then it's like, and also starring Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit,
Yes.
and Miss Piggy as Mrs. Cratchit, and Gonzo as Charles Dickens. Like just that these other characters are stars, but these characters are playing these other characters and everything. So nice little touch during the opening credits.
Yeah, there's always these like layers to what the Muppets are doing.
Yeah. All right. So we kind of touched on it a little bit. So let's talk about the non-Muppets. Of course, Michael Caine. Marina, what did you think of his performance?
I thought he was really good. Caroline was talking a bit in the beginning about how he said he was going to take it very seriously. And that's what I liked so much about him is in the movie, he like looked Kermit in the eye, you know, when obviously there's like a hand, you know, it's probably so weird to be doing, but I love that it felt real in a sense. Like he treated them like actual actors. And I feel like that's why it was such an amazing movie. It didn't feel fake or forced or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same way about that. And I feel like it's simultaneously more tragic and more hilarious because he's so serious and he's, you know, being so cruel to Bob Cratchit. Uh, but it's kind of funny because he's being so serious talking to this Muppet, and at the same time, it's this cute, like, lovable character, Kermit. So, yeah, sorry to jump in, but yeah, I really like that dynamic too.
I think that the moment for me, yeah, like I totally agree with you around him throughout the movie, the way he's acting with Kermit slash Bob Cratchit in those scenes at the beginning, but like the dead seriousness that he brings to like talking about his past at Fozziwig's rubber chicken factory.
Oh my god.
Like it's like part like it's set up to be funny because first it's Fozziwig. So we're playing on like the character of Fezziwig from the actual original. Then you've got the rubber chicken factory, which is like a Fozzie bit, and then you've got Michael Caine just being like so serious about like not cracking at all. Like that to me was like bravo, Michael Caine, bravo.
Yeah, and I mean, for this type of movie, like they could have definitely gone in another direction. They could have hired maybe like a comedian or something to be in that role. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking of 92. Tim Allen was very popular. You put like, say, a Tim
Right.
Allen in that role, and there's probably a little bit more winking at the camera and stuff like that. And it wouldn't have the same impact, and especially kind of towards, I mean, the finale, which of course everybody knows about when you're watching A Christmas Carol, kind of redeems, he finds, the true meaning of Christmas, and he becomes a different person and everything. And, yeah, to see that kind of come from the beginning where he's basically, saying like, oh, how dare you want to have a day off on Christmas Day and everything like that to poor Kermit and all the little rat bookkeepers. But yeah, he did an amazing job. And yeah, it's so when you watch his performance, Caroline, I know you kind of mentioned this beginning, like, but yeah, it totally seems like he is taken straight from like, yeah, a London production of A Christmas Carol or something, like very serious. Yeah, he does an amazing job. And once again, it's kind of shocking to hear that the critics were so harsh on this movie.
I wonder what it was like the first day or two acting with Muppets. And like I don't even like to see those pictures of like sometimes you'll see a behind the scenes of like Sesame Street and you'll see the Muppeteers like in the and I just find that really unsettling to see. But then also I've seen online these videos of people, Elmo is a big one, of like people interacting with a Muppet, and even though the Muppeteer, the human, is right there, within like 30 seconds, people are full on engaging only with the character. So I wonder what that was like if there was a shift around, like, okay, I purposefully have to treat this frog puppet like an actor, how long it took to get to that is the actor that I am acting with. I wonder what that was like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, sorry, I'm just curious about that too, and like what technique you use to achieve that. Like, was he like trying to immerse himself in this fantasy world where, yep, like I am the boss and all my workers are like, these like,
Frogs and rats.
yeah, totally.
Going all full method on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I saw he did this feature in GQ a while ago, and he was just talking about how funny it was to see them, he did treat them like real actors, and he said, though, sometimes it was so funny because they wouldn't have the puppet or the Muppet, and the actors would just be in the corner with their hands, like, practicing together, and he's like, it was hilarious, but that's how they would do it. And I just can't imagine being in a scenario where you're seeing people talk with their hands, like puppets, without a puppet, and then being completely serious the next second and treating them like a full-blown real-life person.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of like stunned thinking about it because he's just so good in this, and I think his own work too. I mean, I don't know too much about acting techniques really, but again, rewatching it for this podcast, I noticed just how his face softens as you go along. And I think that's probably true of most people playing Scrooge. And that's the point of it, is to see this transformation from who we meet at the beginning to who he is at the end. But he starts, there's a bit of that softening happening when they go back to like his school, and then when they go to Fozziwig's rubber chicken factory, which I just love saying. Um, and but it is like his face, like you see, and it's not that he's beaming or smiling too much, but it's starting to soften a little bit, and he's just doing very subtle, small things like with his face and how he's acting. And then by the time he's seen the Cratchit family in Christmas Present, and it's the transition to um Christmas Yet to Come, he really is it's kind of like his face is like totally cracked, and you're seeing um the change in him when really he hasn't had that many lines to communicate that. Yeah, he does a lot in this role, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So unlike some other Christmas Carol adaptations, like Mickey's Christmas Carol, this one is a musical. Um, do you have a favorite song from it? Courtney, I'll start with you.
Um, I was thinking about this. It's a really hard question because honestly, it's an amazing soundtrack. I was talking to one of my colleagues at Millwoods this morning about that, and we both listened to the soundtrack like at Christmas time, like because it's just like great. The songs are great. I think if I have to pick though, I would pick the opening song where Scrooge is walking, through this like Muppet version of London. It's just like perfectly sets the tone. It's a banger. Like it's, I don't know, it's got a great melody. It's like you've got all these little Muppets tucked in the corners on the windowsills, and there's a mouse with a bit of cheese, and there's like all these little kind of one-liners built into the song as well. And yeah, it's just like kind of creating this, I guess, setting the scene for Scrooge as this pretty like intimidating and solemn, serious character in this sort of Muppet version of London with, all these little Muppet versions, I guess, of like typical characters you might have seen in that era at that time. And yeah, it's good and it's funny. And yeah, I love it.
The line about no cheeses for us
That's the one I'm
Mises.
thinking of.
Ah,
Yes, thank you.
cutest.
That like, and it gets stuck in my head. Like I've had that in my head, and it wasn't the words, it was just like the tone of it. And I was like, what is this? What is this? And it was finally like, no cheeses for us Mises. Like it's just such a cute line.
And there's the grocer as well, and he's like, if he became a flavor, you can bet he would be sour, that the vegetables are singing, and yeah, it's just great.
That song too, just overall, the repeating verse of it where it describes Scrooge. I don't actually know the words, so I just take any two-syllable word followed by a one-syllable word. So there,
Right.
here comes Mr. Two-syllable word. There
Yes,
goes
totally.
Mr. One syllable. It's a fun game to play. You can do this at home. Pretty much any word can fit in there.
I actually do that with my cat with that exact song.
Yes.
She's kind of mean sometimes.
Yeah. Marina, how about you?
I agree. The whole, I guess you can call it album or collection of songs is amazing. But for me, my favorite is It Feels Like Christmas. That's also the Ghost of Christmas Present. He's obviously the best. But I love it. My husband hates it because every Christmas when I'm putting up our Christmas tree, I just like sing it because it is, it feels like Christmas. There's nothing else you can sing when you're putting up your Christmas tree. Some sing Mariah Carey. I sang It Feels Like Christmas Muppet version. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Bryce, what have you been humming?
That was Marina had my pick as well. That was definitely the one song that really kind of stood out to me in this one. And I also like the part too where, very similar to the opening song, we do get to see like little pieces of kind of London and the different characters and everything. And I like how kind of I think it's Kermit, and he kind of looks in this house and you see the little mouse, the adorable little mouse family who are also singing it and everything, and they're all dressed up in their Christmas
Come
best.
on. It's the best. It's
Yeah,
so cute.
that, yeah, it's adorable. And somebody like me, even somebody like me, I'm like, how can you not be entertained by that? That's awesome. But I will say though, and Marina, I've mentioned this song to you in the past. My actual all-time favorite Muppets Christmas song though is the Muppets singing the 12 Days of Christmas with John Denver from their 1979 Christmas special. So if you have not heard this, I'm pretty sure we actually do have it in our collection. But yeah, go check that one out. That's my all-time favorite. Like I've, when I'm making up my Christmas Spotify playlist, that song is always included in that one.
That is a good one. That is good. Yeah.
I'll be checking that out. I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's really good. We have, I don't remember which day it is, but we have Beaker singing a little bit, so that alone is worth the listen.
Anytime Beaker sings in Muppet Family Christmas, which really was mine, it's that's the Muppet one that I watch and have watched every year. There's very little plot in it. Basically, it's just an excuse for all of the Muppets in various incarnations to get together with all of their friends. But yeah, there are times when Beaker sings, and it's never not hilarious to have Beaker singing.
So, why do you think this movie's become such a popular holiday tradition for people, Marina?
I think, it's a little scary. It's got a little bit of everything, right? So it's a little scary. You laugh, you cry, or at least I do. I bawl my eyes out every time I watch it, no matter how old I am. You sing, tunes are so catchy. And then at the end, it's such a nice message. So then you go and you hug your family so tight and you're like, I love you guys so much. And they're like, are you okay? And you're like, no, totally fine. Just watched this very heartwarming movie. So I think it just has everything that you'd want in a Christmas movie.
Courtney, how about you?
Yeah, I feel very similarly. Like it's A Christmas Carol is such a classic Christmas story. And of course, because it's Dickens, it's got this pretty strong like political undercurrent that, again, even though the story was written, like Carolyn said, in 1843, it's actually, I think, still fairly relevant to people now, and maybe especially like in the past couple of years. But so there's like all this commentary on greed and abuse of power and materialism, and I feel like the Muppets take this story that is like pretty intense, and dark, and they make it more palatable, kind of like they make it go down a bit easier, right? Because you've got Muppets, you've got humor, and you've got music, and you've got this warmth too. So I think that it's a really perfect match, kind of for this sort of dark. Like it has a happy ending, but it is kind of a heavy story, and I think putting it in this format is just really appealing, and it's good for kids too. Like, yeah, kind of appeals to the whole family, I guess. Yeah.
Caroline?
I agree. I agree with all of those points. And I think another is that I mentioned, it's been 30 years of this, and partly because they do it as a period piece then, there isn't much about the movie that screams 1992, especially when you compare it to something like Home Alone 2, and like with the Talk Boy or some of the fashions and things like that, which I also love. Like, don't get me wrong, I love, a dated movie now, but the timelessness of the movie, I think, if you just put it on and told someone, oh, this just came out on Disney Plus, they would believe you to some degree because, yes, there are some special effects, but nothing really that hits it and makes it kind of feel like this was made 30 years ago.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
It does have that timeless quality.
But yeah, the special effects are not so special. Especially like Ghost of Christmas Past, her little hand is so creepy to me. Like Michael Caine holding her tiny creepy hand. Oh, it doesn't look right.
I mentioned to Caroline yesterday that I don't know what it is about like Henson and company, but like they can't do like realistic children faces. Like they also did the Dark Crystal, which I also thought was extremely creepy. But for Ghost of Christmas Present, though, we get kind of more of like a kind of a fun human type look, Muppet look to it anyway. But yeah, Ghost of Christmas Past a little creepy. But I was going to say though, and I think, one of the main reasons why this is kind of stood the test of time is, like you said, Caroline, it is timeless, and not just because of like obviously the actual 1840s setting, but there isn't kind of like those 90s references in it, which really helps. And then also too, just with the direction of the movie from Brian Henson, who obviously, this is a tribute to his late father as well. So it's just a very heartwarming movie. So it's definitely not surprised, and it's very it's encouraging to hear that Marina, people like yourself who are now showing it to their kids, and I'm sure when she's older, she will also share it with her kids as well.
Maybe. She does really like Mickey Mouse, so I feel like I should show her the Mickey Mouse Christmas Carol first.
Although I will say Mickey's Christmas Carol, the part with the ghost of future yet to come, that part's scary.
Very.
Where with the graveyard and like essentially it's like hell is opening up, and it's intense. You should watch it first.
Yikes.
I was going to mention that one too. I think that one's maybe even scarier. And Marley in that, I think if they include the detail that his head is wrapped in a scarf because his jaw is detached from his skull. Thankfully, they omitted that in the Muppet version because I think it would be really disturbing, as it was in the Mickey version.
Yeah, you might want to watch that one first.
Oh my God.
Showing it to your daughter.
I'm traumatized.
Bryce, before we get to our roundtable questions, can you let everyone know what we'll be talking about on our next episode coming out on Friday, December 30th?
Caroline, is there anything better than a good end of the year best of list?
You know I love them.
Yeah, they are one of my favorites. And on the next episode, we're doing our annual Best of the Year episode where we share our picks for the top books, movies, games, and music. See what titles make the best of Overdue Finds 2022 on our next episode. Caroline, I imagine you've got your list. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I have a new entry in the music category. So yeah, I'm preparing my list. And I can't wait for that episode.
Yeah, I've got my list on the go, making it, checking it twice, getting ready for one of my favorite episodes of the year.
So you've got, I think today for roundtable questions, you've got a treat for us, don't you?
I do. Like I did on our TV theme song episode, I put in no need to prep because I am going to ask you some questions. Now, on this, I'm going to ask for you to not try to Google them as I speak, because that would ruin some of the fun of this. The first round is called Has This Person Played Scrooge? So I'm going to give you the name of an actor, and you're going to tell me if the person has played Scrooge or voiced Scrooge, because some of them are animated. First one, Tim Curry. Oh, and this will be the order we go in on my screen. Marina, Courtney, Bryce. Okay. Has this person played Scrooge? Yes or no? Tim Curry. Marina.
Oh gosh. I don't know. Yes?
Courtney.
I'll say true.
Bryce.
I would also say true, but I have a feeling this is going to be false.
No, you are all correct. Tim Curry played Scrooge in the 1997 animated video A Christmas Carol. Next version, maybe should have started with this one, eased it in. Jim Carrey. Marina.
True.
Courtney.
Yeah, that's true.
Bryce?
Yes, we talked about that a little bit on our bonus episode.
Yeah, the 2009 version, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Okay, Christopher Plummer, Marina. Yes or no?
No.
Courtney?
I'm gonna say false as well. I swear I'm not just copying you, Marina. I'm really thinking independently here, I promise.
Bryce?
I'm going to say yes, because I think I recall a VHS cover with him playing Scrooge on it.
Well, I'm not sure what you're thinking of, but the answer is yes. He played a version of Scrooge in The Man Who Invented Christmas, which came out in 2017. And this one is a little bit trickier because he's a version of Scrooge who haunts Charles Dickens during the writing of A Christmas Carol. So it's a fictional version of a fictional character, but he did play Scrooge. Next one, Henry Winkler, aka the Fonz. Marina.
False.
Courtney?
Yeah, false. I don't know who Henry Winkler is, but I'm gonna say the Fonz didn't play Scrooge.
Bryce?
I'm going to say true, and I'm willing to bet it was on probably a Christmas episode of Happy Days where the Fonz is visited by the ghosts.
That would have been really good. The answer is yes. 1979's An American Christmas Carol. He was in his 30s playing Scrooge in old age makeup in his 70s. The cover of it is kind of terrifying because he just looks very old in there. But anyway, that is a yes for Henry Winkler. Last one in this round, Oscar the Grouch. Marina. Has Oscar the Grouch played Scrooge?
Oh, I'm going to say it's so on brand for him. So I'm going to say yes.
Yes. Courtney?
I'm gonna say false.
Yeah, false for me too. I think it's obvious, but I don't think he's played Scrooge.
He did in 2006's Sesame Street Christmas Carol. And all of those are available from EPL, so you can check them out as well. Second round, does this really exist or am I making it up? Okay. As we know, A Christmas Carol has been the inspiration for many, many different versions over the years. Does this really exist or am I, Caroline, making it up? First one. The Stingiest Man in Town. Story of Ebenezer Scrooge, the meanest and most miserly man on earth. Originally produced for television, it was a musical and later remade into a Rankin Bass animated special starring Walter Matthau as Scrooge. We'll go Courtney, Marina, Bryce this time.
That's a lot of detail, so I'm gonna say true.
I agree. It's too much detail to be false.
Yeah, if you made that up, good for you. So I'll say false.
No, I did not. You are right. It is all of that actually happened. Okay, next one. It's Christmas Carol. It's Christmas, comma, Carol, exclamation mark. A story of a driven, heartless publishing executive who on Christmas Eve is visited by the ghost of her former boss, Eve, who's played by Carrie Fisher.
That sounds real to me. I say, yeah, it's real.
Yeah? Marina?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched this movie. So yes, it's true.
I've also seen this movie, so yes, it's true.
It is, and you can stream it on Hoopla. Anyone who hasn't seen it yet. My dad is Scrooge. Oliver and his animal friends plan a performance of the Christmas classic A Christmas Carol to help bring some Christmas joy to his Scrooge-like dad. Features talking animals.
I'll say that one's fake.
It's fake.
Yeah, I think it's fake as well.
You can also stream this one on Hoopla. It is real. My dad is Scrooge, talking animals. This next one is a Christmas classic reanimated in Smurf vision. Grouchy Smurf has been grouchy towards his fellow Smurfs. Now the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future are here to teach him a lesson.
Real. That's real.
Marina, what do you think?
I think so. I think real.
Yeah, I also think real.
Yep. The Smurfs have done a Christmas Carol adaptation. Last one on my list. When Swiper tries to swipe the Christmas star from Dora the Explorer's party, he lands on Santa's naughty list. To get back on the nice list, Dora must help Swiper travel to the past, the present, and the future to discover the true spirit of Christmas.
I don't know anything about Dora, so I'm gonna just guess false. It's not real.
Marina?
Yeah. Swiper, no swiping. I think no.
Based on all these questions, I'm going to say yes, and we have it in our collection. Is that true?
What?
That is correct. You have cracked my code, Bryce. Dora the Explorer also did a version of A Christmas Carol, and like all of the other things I have mentioned during this round, you can borrow them from EPL. There are a lot of Christmas Carol adaptations out there.
Yeah.
So our second roundtable question, what classic story do you think the Muppets should next turn into a movie? Courtney, what would you love to see?
Oh my god. Okay, because I'm not like a big Muppet aficionado, and what I realize I really love about the Christmas Carol is, I mean, it's a great Christmas story, but also that combination of like the hilarity and the sweetness of the Muppets with this kind of dark, spooky story. I just went out on a limb and I said, let's see them do an H.P. Lovecraft story, maybe at the Mountains of Madness or something like that.
That'd be good.
Yeah, Disney, are you listening? We got some ideas for you.
Every episode, Caroline, we come up with these $1 million ideas for
Gold.
so many streaming services.
We're just giving it away here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marina, what about you?
So I don't know if this is too dark for the Muppets, but I think it would be really amazing to see The Great Gatsby, the Muppets version. I feel like Miss Piggy would be the most fabulous Daisy. Kermie, such a dapper Gatsby, you know? I just think, and Gonzo I think would be a great narrator as we've seen in the Muppet Christmas Carol. Let's continue that. I don't know, might be too dark. Not sure how they'd get over all the
Not
terrible
with the
things,
Lovecraft.
but yeah.
No, I completely agree. That is my answer. Great Gatsby. These never have correct answers, but Gatsby is the correct answer. So, having said that, Bryce, what would you like to pitch?
This novel isn't quite as classic as, H.P. Lovecraft or The Great Gatsby, but this is a movie that I don't think Hollywood could ever remake just because it's such a classic, and that's the Steven Spielberg film Jaws. So I would like to see a Muppet version of Jaws. Like, if you think about it, it'd be really good. We have Kermit playing Sheriff Brody. We got, of course, Miss Piggy plays his wife once again in this. We could have Gonzo as Quint, who's kind of all, the grizzled kind of World War II vet. Fozzie Bear is Hooper. Here's another one too. Sam the Eagle plays the mayor of the town, basically saying we can't close the beach over the summer. Or how about this one too? We could kind of go Muppet Christmas Carol route and have obviously a real, actual live actor in it. I would propose having a real life actor in the role of Quint. So he's like this grizzled guy who's telling this horrible World War II story to a visibly shaken Kermit and Gonzo maybe on the boat, or Fozzie. So that's mine. Muppets present Jaws.
Wow, you cast the whole movie already.
I would watch all of these.
They'd all be amazing.
You guys went darker stories too. Yeah, this is what I want.
We told you, Disney Plus, give us a call. Email us, podcast@epl.ca. We just have $1 million ideas every single time here on Overdue Finds. Courtney, Marina, thank you both so much for joining us today. This was so much fun. Before we go, is there anything that you would like to let our listeners know about? Marina?
Well, in the spirit of giving, I really wanted to encourage anyone listening to make a donation to our Ready, Set, Read early literacy initiative. So it's a partnership we have with Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, and it gives children birth to age 5 one new age-appropriate book every month. And each book is selected by experts to meet the child's developmental needs. So I have an almost 2-year-old and she loves books, and we're so fortunate to live close to a library where she can easily access unlimited books. But there's a lot of families who don't have the same means. So this initiative is really amazing because it helps children in Edmonton who many have never even owned a book before. So I really strongly encourage anyone listening to head to epl.ca/give and give the gift of early literacy this holiday season.
Caroline, I was just going to quickly say regarding that Dolly Parton tie-in, that could also be a good future episode of Overdue Finds.
Bryce, you read my mind. So stay tuned for that maybe in the new year. And Courtney, is there anything you would like to mention?
Sure. For my branch of the Edmonton Public Library, the Mill Woods branch, I just wanted to say, if you know a teen who is part of the LGBTQS2 plus community, we have a weekly GSA that is happening. It's a safe space for them to come hang out, socialize, hear from guest speakers, and do fun activities and eat snacks. So that's Tuesdays from 4 to 5 at the Millwoods Library. And then I thought I would give myself a little bit of free marketing too. If you like spooky stories, as I do, maybe you would like my comics and art. Good place to find me is on Instagram. My handle is Blue Crystal Ranger.
Courtney's an amazing artist, and definitely go check out their work for sure.
Thanks so much.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so, we encourage you to subscribe so that you automatically get all of our new episodes. Please also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That can be your Christmas gift to Bryce and me. If you haven't gotten something already, don't worry about it. Just leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And most importantly, tell a friend about the show.
Yeah, don't forget that we'll have a link to everything that we talked about in today's show notes. So if you'd like to share your favorite Muppet memories or suggest a future episode topic, maybe a Dolly Parton episode, please email us at podcasts@epl.ca or hit us up on Twitter by using the hashtag EPL Overdue Finds. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.